Hello, and welcome to Introduction to Fine Arts. My name is Sean, and I'll be your teacher. You might have watched my little faculty profile video and have a bit of a sense of my background. I'm an artist. I'm a lot of things actually, a father, a husband, teacher, etc., etc. But the identity that most describes the core of what makes me tick is the one of myself as an artist. Most faculty who teach this course are art historians, and that's a completely different thing. Uh-oh, you might be thinking, did I sign up for the wrong section of Intro to Fine Arts? I don't think so. Consider the differences between artists and art historians with respect to this course. Well, every instructor is different. But I'm probably more focused on the art itself, the artists, the effects artists had upon society and its place in the grand scheme of things, the cool stuff. Not as much with specific dates or other minutiae, though sometimes those are important. There are pros and cons of me as your instructor. Regarding pronunciation, I'll do my best. I don't always get some of the names correct. Spelling is the same thing, although that might not be too big of an issue. Sometimes I could be a tiny bit disorganized, maybe just a tiny bit absent-minded if I'm being really honest with myself, but also, more than anything, I care very deeply about art, and so that might be the trade-off, I guess. This course is lecture-driven. You read the textbook in order to be prepared for the lecture. Lectures won't make much sense without the background knowledge the book provides. The book is the preparation. We'll go much deeper in important areas. Hopefully you've already read the introduction section of the textbook, Understanding the Arts, as assigned. If not, consider doing so before continuing with this presentation. In fact, this could actually take up a lot more content in your textbook than just the introduction. This is where the most important material lies. It's the section that will help you interpret everything else we study this semester. But anyway, why even study art to begin with? Currently, academics seem very rooted in pragmatic goals like math or science. Are the arts and humanities a distraction from that? Are there any pragmatic benefits from studying art? I mean, aside from understanding the jokes on Family Guy and Stranger Things. And sounding intelligent at a dinner party. What about higher aspirations? Maybe a deeper connection with your culture and others? Well-rounded knowledge of the world you live in? A deeper understanding of yourself? Your textbook says, science seeks to describe reality, art seeks to interpret that reality. Without art, science is meaningless. Another famous quote, art mirrors life. But really, I like Oscar Wilde's idea more. It's the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. Looking at art is looking at yourself. Understanding art is understanding yourself. At this point in your life, you have the room to explore these things. You won't always have that opportunity. Life gets in the way. Other things take priority, so do it now. You even get 3 credits for it, and probably get to knock out some degree requirements along the way. But just what is it we'll study? How can we come up with a working definition of art? Here are 2 works side by side, Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci and The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living by Damien Hirst. Quite different from one another. Anyone can put a dead shark in a tank. At least that's what a number of people say in response to Damien Hirst's artwork. But his response is kind of famous. He said, "But you didn't, did you?" These are both considered art. In fact, both very famous and, quote, important works of art. How can they each be looked at as the same basic thing when they are so completely different? What makes a thing art? This, quote, postmodern age makes it really tough on a dictionary. Art. Noun. The quality, production, expression, or realm according to aesthetic principles of what is beautiful, appealing, or of more than ordinary significance. Number 2, the class of objects subject to aesthetic criteria. It's so generalized, it doesn't really say anything. But that's on purpose, because if it did say anything, it could easily be proven wrong. Even as written, I have some qualms about this definition. That gets at an important point. What art is varies. It varies from one time period to the other. It varies based on someone's culture or subculture, religion, nationality, clique. Any grouping of people leads to a different idea about what art is. And right here and now, I guess still kind of early 21st century in America, is a great time and place to study art. Most other periods had a pretty specific, generally agreed upon definition, but not here and now, not at all. Number 2 in the definition, the class of objects subject to aesthetic criteria. You can see that has nothing really to do with the object itself, but with the person experiencing the object. Once again, it's the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. Nearly everything can be held up for consideration as art. That isn't to say that everything is equally good art, and we'll discuss that later. Art employs the senses and makes you think. Visual arts include two-dimensional art, like painting, printmaking, drawing, three-dimensional art, like sculpture, installation art, performance art, multimedia. And if you look at the broader humanities, it includes music, theater, cinema, dance, literature, poetry, architecture. We'll look at each of those to some extent throughout the semester. To understand art at all, you have to know what the artist and critic are talking about, and to have an awareness of the context the art is presented in. So next, we'll talk about some basic art terminology and concepts. And here are some terms to get us started. Aesthetics, form and content, patronage, and period. First, let's talk about aesthetics. Aesthetics is Greek for perception of the senses. And there's a dictionary definition, a set of principles concerned with the nature and appreciation of beauty, especially in art. Or, the branch of philosophy that deals with the principles of beauty and artistic taste. Pleasure derived from the senses, our subjective experience of beauty. But pleasure can also be elicited by ideas. And art is a lot of things. Does it really need to be beautiful as well? Take, for instance, this painting by Lucian Freud, one of my all-time favorite painters, Benefit Supervisor Resting. The subject, a middle management acquaintance of the artist, if I'm not mistaken, might not be beautiful by our society's most common conventional standards, which are problematic anyway, to say the least. But it's a magnificently beautiful painting when you get up into the surface and see the way the artist manipulates the painted mark and texture. Besides, cultural ideals change, sometimes pretty radically from one time period to the next. In our next lecture, we'll discuss form and content, along with some other important terms and concepts to help frame our semester-long exploration of the fine arts. Until then, farewell.